Hey, what's up everybody? Just wanted to tell you about a new series of tutorials that we're doing on an exciting new programming language called CMajor. CMajor is a way that we can create audio plugins and apps quickly. Now, some of you may know, the music tech industry traditionally uses C++ for creating these apps, and there are several obstacles that we face with this current way of creating audio plugins. First of all, C++ is a challenging language to learn. Second, graphics programming with C++ is a challenge because the toolkits are limited in comparison to what we see in the web world with JavaScript. And another thing is that the current practice requires that anytime we make any changes using C++, we need to recompile the code again and see the result of our changes. Now, as many of you know, I'm a huge fan of the C++ framework Juice. In fact, we have over 150 videos on Juice on the channel, and I still think it's the best way to go if you want to seriously step into the industry because so many music tech companies use it. One of the great things about CMajor is that you can actually export the code to a Juice project or even raw dependency-free C++. The main reason I'm doing these tutorials is because I think CMajor is a great project that actually takes a deeper look at some of the challenges we currently face in the industry and actually makes a serious attempt to address them. The other awesome part that I haven't mentioned yet is that CMajor is actually the creation of Julian Storer, who was the creator of Juice. He's working with Cesare Ferrari, a stellar team with Lucas and Harriet. Big shout out to them. They have a great understanding of how to overcome some of the challenges that we're facing, and I definitely think it's worth taking a deeper dive into this approach and seeing where we go. This is going to be a great new learning opportunity because together we're going to be learning not one programming language, but actually two. One of them being CMajor for the audio, and then JavaScript for the user interface. Is using two separate programming languages actually any easier than streamlining our approach and doing it all in C++ and Juice? I don't actually know, but I think this is going to be a great challenge for us, and I hope that we'll learn a couple things along the way. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you a couple resources for getting started with CMajor. I'm also going to show you how to set up your developer environment so that you can actually start coding and a couple different options for that. And we're going to load up a couple projects, go over the project structure, and I think that as we do this, it's going to become quickly apparent why I think this could be an amazing tool for creating your own audio apps and plugins. So there are two great video presentations from Julian Storer where he discusses the intention behind CMajor. One of those is here on the Audio Programmer YouTube page, and there's another great one that's from ADC last year. I'll put both of those links in the description below. Another great resource is the CMajor website, which is cmajor.dev or cmajor.dev. I'll put a link to that below as well. This also talks about the mission and goals of CMajor as a programming language. It has a language guide, so it shows you how to actually get started using the language. And it also has a quick start guide on how to set up your developer environment that I will show you shortly. Another critical resource and the place where we're actually going to start setting up our developer environment is the CMajor GitHub repository. So this is a place that includes documentation, also includes example patches that we'll be able to load into our plugin shells. And this is quite exciting, and I will show you how to do this in a moment. And it's really cool if you've never seen it before, and it's almost like wizardry. So I will show you how to do that in just a moment. If you scroll over here to the right, then you will see a section called Releases, and this is where we can download what are called the binaries for CMajor. So this includes the command line tools as well as what I would call plugin shells. So plugin shells are a place where we can dynamically load CMajor code into a plugin, and it actually displays the plugin dynamically without you having to do any recompiling or anything. It's almost like magic. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this latest version of the binaries, scroll down, and now I'm going to download this cmajor.dmg since I'm on Mac. So the next steps that I'm going to show you are applicable to Mac, but I'm hoping that if you're on Windows, you'll be able to suss out how to do the equivalent thing on Windows. So when I open the DMG, we now see this 5 files, we see this CMajor. So this is actually the command line tools, and you're going to need some basic command line skills to put this into the right place, but I will show you how to do that step by step. Just follow along with me. Then we have 3 what I would call plugin shells. So these are essentially generic blank plugins where you can actually take CMajor code and actually drag and drop it onto the user interface of this, and it dynamically loads a new plugin. You can actually make changes to the plugin, and it actually changes on the fly. So this is amazing for prototyping DSP, also for when you're changing your user interface. It's pretty awesome, and it looks like magic if you've never actually seen it before. So I will show you how those work and where to put those. Then we have a dynamic library that I'm not going to worry about for this tutorial. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take and put the command line tools in the right place. So you're going to need some command line skills for this. If you have never used the command line before, check out my video called Command Line Basics on this channel. It'll run through these commands that I'm about to show you now. So these command line tools are something like if you've ever loaded Python or CMake and used that from the command line, it's something similar where you can call CMajor and you'll be able to do various commands from directly within the command line. So the first thing we need to do is actually put this into the right place. On Mac, the default location is user/local/bin. So what I will do is I'm going to change directory into usr/local/bin, and then I'm going to open this folder that I'm in now. So I'm going to do open dot, and now I'm in my user local bin, and you can see that I've installed various versions of Python. I have taglib in there, I have npm, CMake should be in there. I'm surprised it's not. But what I'm going to do is now I'm going to, first thing that I'll show you is that if I try CMajor help, we'll see that it says command not found. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this CMajor and I'm going to move it in here. I need to type my password. And now it's in here. And now if I do CMajor help, it's just thinking. And now we see that we have CMajor documentation there. So now you can use CMajor from the command line. And all of the documentation on this is of course available via the GitHub repository and also the documentation from CMajor. They put a lot of great effort into doing this. So another thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clone this repository so that we can actually load the example code. So now if I just go to my development folder, create a folder called CMajor. So this is where I'm going to put all of my CMajor code. And then what I can do is I can actually, I'm going to go back to my command line. And now I'm going to CD into that folder. So I CD, and then I take CMajor, I just drag and drop it there. And then what I could do is now clone that repository with git clone, and then the git link. And just like that, it's done it. So now if I look in CMajor, then I see that we have example code and the documentation and all of those things. So now we're good there. Another really cool thing is that they actually have a Visual Studio Code extension. So this is a very easy way if you don't want to really mess with the command line and that confuses you. The easiest way that you could get started is using Visual Studio Code and installing the extension that they've written. So I've already downloaded Visual Studio Code, so make sure that you don't mistakenly download just Microsoft Visual Studio. That's completely separate application, we want Visual Studio Code. So when you open up Visual Studio Code, this is what you see. And now if I go down here to the bottom left, you will see extensions. So I'm going to click here. And then if I just search for C major, then we see that there is an extension. So this extension essentially allows us to do things like running a patch, creating a patch. It also allows us to export a patch as a Juice plugin that we'll do in future tutorials. So now I can just install, and now we've installed the Visual Studio Code extension, and that means that when I load a C major patch, that it will actually know how to deal with that. Now we want to take these plugins and we want to move them into the right place. So the first thing that we have is the C major plugin, the standalone application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my applications folder and take this C major plugin, the standalone, and I'm just going to move it there. So now that's good to go. The component and VST plugins I want to load into my plugins folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from my root folder, from my hard drive. I'm going to go to library, audio, plugins, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take VST3. I'm going to take this, drag it here. It wants my password. And in my component, I'm going to take that and I'm going to load it there. And now we're good to go. So now when I load up Ableton, so let's just go ahead and open up Ableton really quickly. What we should see is if we go into plugins and then into the VST folder into Sound Stacks Limited, I'll click on an audio track here and I can just click on that C major plugin and it loads the plugin. So this is like a generic plugin loader. So it's like a generic plugin. Now we get to the exciting part, which is that we can actually load some examples. So what I will do now is I will go to where I cloned the C major repository into examples, and here we have patches, and let's just go with this one called Hello World, and we will see what happens. So so here you'll see two files. So one is called C major, .C major, and then the other one is called a .C major patch. So one thing that I did that is very helpful, because once you start working with C major patches, your system is not going to be familiar with these types of extensions. So if you go to get info and then you come to your info, what you can do is you can set a default application to load C major patch, .C major patches or .C majors. So what you could do is you basically change your application here and then you hit change all, and what this will do is ensure that every time you have a C major patch or a .C major, that it loads in Visual Studio Code. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the C major patch and show you what we have. So this is what's called a manifest file. So this is just the overall information about the patch itself. So here we can see that isInstrument is set to false. We see that the manufacturer is SoundStacks, and so this is just the basic information about the patch itself. So think of this almost like the Pro Juicer in a sense, if you've ever used Juice. Now, if I minimize this and I open up the C major, the actual C major code, so the .C major, this actually has the code in it. So what we'll see here is that this one has a set of notes, and then it says that it's going to play those notes on load. So let's see what happens. So what we want to do is we just put this C major patch, and now when I drag it, it should show something. So I'm going to drag it there, and you see that it turns green when I drag it over the UI, and then let's see what happens. Cool, so you see that it played that patch, and now we've loaded a plugin. And now changing patches is as easy as dragging and dropping them. So what I could do is let's go to a reverb. So this one's cool. And so this is a famous open source reverb called Freeverb. And so what I need to do is just hit unload, and now I can load up this. And you can see that this actually has a user interface. So now if I go and let's find a sample here. So let me just do this. I'm going to turn down the volume a little bit, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, it actually plays with some reverb. So I'm sure that you can see already how very powerful this is. And one of the cool things here that I won't mess with now, but that I will do in a future tutorial is that I could actually load this up in my Visual Studio Code. So if I did this, and if I wanted to, I could actually change this. I could just actually change any of this code, and it uses what's called a JIT engine, or just-in-time engine, that actually lets you dynamically adjust this without actually even needing to recompile, needing to do any loading or anything. So this is really, really powerful. Okay, this is where we're going to wrap up our tutorial for now. I hope this was a great introduction to a way to get started in setting up your environment for C major. And in the next tutorial, we're actually going to set up our first C major patch and actually start writing some code. How exciting. Be sure to join us on the Audio Programmer community in the C major room for information, tutorials, and help on C major. I'll see you next time. Take care.